If you struggle with achieving a fullness in your curls, or you have very thin ends, or you struggle with your scalp showing, then you'll definitely want to hear the answers to some of my most asked questions when it comes to having low density and thin curly hair. If you are new to my channel, welcome. My name is Sheena, and here I make videos all about naturally curly hair. And I also really like making some of these detailed styling videos where I answer your questions and help you troubleshoot with your curls. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back to my channel. And if you like this type of video, I post these every single week, so consider subscribing if you haven't already so you don't miss out on my next one. I also wanted to thank Curlsmith for partnering with me for this video. They're one of my favorite brands that I use all the time, and they actually have hair makeup. That's what I have in my hair right now, is this gold hair makeup. If you notice, it looks a little bit warmer. That is why they have these temporary hair makeups that wash out with just regular shampoo, even with just water. They've got so many different colors, and I wanted to feature these because they're great for this time of year with Halloween looks. You don't have to damage your hair by coloring your hair, and you can just wear your natural curls. And they also have a sale going on right now where you can get 3 of these for the price of 2, so I'll have those sale details listed down below because it's just going on for a limited time. But even if you don't need these for like a Halloween look, I definitely still think it's nice to have some of these on hand if you just want to liven up your hair color. So let's go ahead and get started. So my hair is clean and freshly washed, so I'm ready to go in and style. Today I'm going to be using the Curlsmith fragrance-free shine cream. I'm also going to use the full body thickening lotion because this is amazing if you have low density hair. And I'm also going to use the Shape Up Aqua Gel. This is a light hold gel, and I'll explain why when I answer the questions that I'm going with a lighter hold gel. And of course, I'm going to be testing out the Gold Curlsmith Hair Makeup. Also wearing a black shirt. The hair makeup does not stain your clothes. It does rinse out, but it's just easier to have something on that's dark. And I'm also going to be putting my hair repair towel around my shoulders just so it doesn't get all over my neck and all over my skin. So the first question asks, what are my best tips for very fine, low density hair? So my first tip for very low density hair is to style your hair damp instead of soaking wet. So when I rinse out my conditioner, I usually put my hair up in this towel just very loosely. And then once I go in to style, I usually just spritz it down with some water. That helps to sort of blot my roots dry and just absorb some of that water that's dripping. But then I can still go back in and add water where needed, so that way I'm not styling super dry and you end up with stringy hair. And this helps keep the roots a lot fuller instead of your roots being dripping, soaking wet. A lot of the routines that you will see online for wavy hair, or others that like to style in the very traditional curly girl method where it's very wet, that's not going to work that great for very low density hair. You'll probably see a lot more of your scalp, and your hair will just clump together too much. And it takes forever for your hair to dry, which I don't like to be diffusing forever. So now I'm going in with the Curlsmith Shine Cream. This is just a great all-around curl cream. And this also gives a ton of shine to the hair, and it's fragrance free. So I usually use about a nickel size amount. The next tip I have for low density hair is to use more lightweight products and use gels that are a lighter hold. Now you all know I love a good strong hold gel, but whenever you use a strong hold gel, it can definitely create a ton of definition and really like make the hair look more PC to where it clumps together to form those ringlets, which is nice, but that can reduce your overall fullness. So that's why I'm going to go in with the Shape Up Aqua Gel for this video, because it's a light hold gel and I still get a lot of volume and fullness. It still gives really great definition, but when you use light hold products, you might just have to do more touch-ups on next day hair. Some other of my best tips for low density hair include styling upright. You'll notice I always style upright. I don't like to style upside down. I still do things to get more volume by kind of pulling the hair up and back, and I'll show you that. But I don't like to style upside down because then I can't really control how my hair looks in the back or how the scalp is going to look. It usually ends up showing the scalp a lot more when I style upside down, and then I just end up with a ton of tangles. Can you all see the shine that that cream gives? It's amazing. So those are just kind of like the basic steps that I always apply to my routine to help my low density hair look fuller. So I'm going to be applying my gels in sections for more coverage, especially with using that hair makeup. But another tip for low density hair is to not section your hair. That way you get more of just a fuller look on the inner layers, and it's not like so perfectly defined all the way down to the lowest layer, if that makes sense. So now I'm gonna go in with the Curlsmith Shape Up Aqua Gel. This gel does contain some light protein. It's a very liquidy gel. This gel is a light hold, and I'm layering this gel with the hair makeup, because the hair makeup is actually meant to replace your gel. It is a gel, but it's a very strong hold gel, and it also gives quite a bit of like texture to the hair, which is great for volume. But the Shape Up Aqua Gel is a lighter hold gel, so I'm applying it way more thoroughly and evenly coating every hair, and then I'm just going to kind of glaze in the hair makeup and scrunch, because I want to see how it looks kind of used as like a topper almost, or sort of just like for highlights versus completely coating my hair in the hair makeup. If you want to see how my hair looked with the copper version of the hair makeup, where I did like completely coat my hair, you can check out the Instagram reels that I posted on my feed. It's really awesome, and my hair looked so vibrant, and I just loved the color that I got, and I did apply it pretty thoroughly and got quite a bit of color payoff with that method. So the next question asks, how do I get my ends to look fuller and not so see-through? So in order to get your curls to not look so see-through and have your ends be fuller is to not clump the lower section of your hair too much with a brush. If you are going to be brush styling, or even if you were just styling with your fingers, avoid having too large of clumps on the lower section. I still like to create brush curls and clumps on the top section, but on the lower section, try just creating more separated curl clumps. So sometimes I don't even really brush style the lower section. Sometimes I will just brush it through like this, just to keep it nice and separated, or sometimes I don't even do that, and I will just like run my fingers through and see how much like the curls are not too clumped compared to these pieces that I brush styled. Like this would dry looking like just 3 curls, but if I kind of break it up, now it's a lot fuller, and because I have gel in my hair and it's good and moisturized, it's not too stringy, and just having that on the bottom layer can really help your hair look not so see-through. So sometimes I will just create a clump like right in the front section that shows more, and then the underside layer I'll just kind of brush it through just to help the hair curl up but not clump it too much. You can also use a wide tooth comb to separate the clumps after you brush through. So then I also usually just check in the back just to make sure that it's not too clumped, or I'll kind of look at it with the light going through and I will shake out the clumps. You'll probably see me do this a lot in videos where I just kind of tilt my head to the side and I look at it and I break it up. It's better to break those up when your hair is wet than trying to do it once your hair is already dried. So now I'm going in with the hair makeup. This is the gold version. Super pretty and sparkly. That's what it looks like on the hands. And then I'm going to rub this in my palms so it's evenly distributed in my hair. Look at that color. And I'm just going to kind of rake it in and scrunch. Like I said, I wanted to do more of just like a highlighting method with this versus coating my hair. So I'm not applying this quite as thoroughly as I did the copper color, just to kind of test a different technique. So another tip that I wanted to share when it comes to your hair looking see-through is I definitely recommend getting a trim. I will put up a picture here of my hair when I finally got my hair cut a lot shorter and I let go of the ends of my hair. It changed my hair so much and it looks so much fuller, and I wish I did this sooner when I was transitioning. And I just had to let go of the idea of my hair being super long because it's so low density. Like sometimes low density hair just looks fuller when it's shorter, instead of trying to get those long layers to grow out and then they just end up looking stringy. So maybe one day I can have longer hair if I can get it a little bit thicker, but it's just hard with very low density hair for it to not look see-through once you grow it long. Another thing I highly recommend is not having layers if you have low density hair. I do have a video about the haircut that I get, and it's basically just a blunt cut, and that just helps it look more full on the bottom, because if you have layers, you'll have like a shorter layer here and a longer one, and then that longer one is a lot thinner because it doesn't have as much hair covering it. So I just had to let go of the layers too, and my hair looks a lot fuller with that blunt cut and a little bit shorter than trying to keep it so long with layers. So I love how that hair makeup just rinses right off your hands with water, so that way I can do the rest of my products and not have it on my hands. So I'm just gonna clip this up with a hair clip. I also just realized I totally forgot to apply the full body thickening lotion, so I'm gonna go in with that now. You're supposed to use this after your leave-in conditioner, but before your stylers, like before your gel and stuff. So this is just a really lightweight leave-in. If you, well, it's not technically a leave-in, but it is very moisturizing. If you have very low density hair, you could probably use this just as your like leave-in first step for some moisture because it does have moisturizing ingredients in it. So the next question says, what is the most important thing to consider to get consistent results? I started noticing more consistent results in my hair when my hair got a lot healthier. So as I was transitioning my hair from having a ton of damage, having bleach damage, my results were almost never consistent. I was always struggling with my results just not turning out very good. I always had frizz after wash day, and my hair was just really hard to manage overall. But once I started getting my hair healthier, I got really frequent trims. I tried to gradually trim off that highlight damage that I had. My hair was just so much easier to manage. The refreshes were so much easier. It just was less of a pain overall, and I just started noticing a lot less frizz and a lot less dryness because my hair porosity was getting a lot lower, so it wasn't losing moisture as much. Another thing I would definitely recommend incorporating in your routine if you are struggling with very inconsistent results is to make sure that you are regularly clarifying your hair or using a chelating shampoo. This is a special shampoo that removes hard water buildup, because a lot of the times when your hair is just like all of a sudden not cooperating or it's just not turning out, sometimes it can be because you have buildup in your hair, and that could be just something that, you know, it's not like something you change in your routine. You're doing the same thing, but your hair is just not turning out, and it could be because that buildup or those minerals from hard water are accumulating on your hairs. And another thing is make sure that you are deep conditioning on a regular basis. If your hair gets dry and you've never done a deep conditioning treatment, then your results are not going to turn out as good. So those are just some of the basics of making sure that you're keeping your hair healthy for more consistent results, is clarifying on a regular basis and also deep conditioning on a regular basis. So I'm just creating a couple of brush curls around some face framing pieces. So next question says, how do I better cover my scalp? I received a lot of questions about this because I know a lot of you struggle with scalp covering just like I do. And one of my biggest tips for better covering your scalp if you have low density hair is to make sure that you're not over clumping at the roots. So just like I've talked about throughout this video about creating a fuller look with less brush styling, more hair that's damp and not soaking wet, that's gonna also help the hair at your root not be so exposed and your scalp to show through. Another thing you can do to help with more fullness at the scalp is avoid applying your gel all the way to the root. I usually definitely recommend that you take your gel all the way to the root to help with root frizz. But like I mentioned before, anytime that you have gel in your hair, it's going to clump the hair together more and make it look just more piecey because you get more definition. And if you're trying to keep your scalp from showing, you want less definition at the root. So maybe only take your gel like to here instead of taking it all the way up here. That way it's more full and it dries almost like how your hair dries when you don't have product in it and it's so much more full and it's not so defined. Well, maybe you can keep that at the root but then still have your hair defined on the lengths. My next tip for better covering your scalp is to use a very dense bristle brush. So this is a vegan boar bristle brush, so it has a lot more bristles. The bristles are very dense, and this is really the best way to better cover your scalp, because watch when I brush this section, see how much less separation that happens and less clumping compared to when I use a brush like this that's more separated. You can just see that there's a lot more clumping happening here. And you'll notice when I get to this crown section, this is usually when I pick up a horizontal section, because vertical sections will definitely expose your scalp because you're grouping the hair together like this, so then you're exposing the scalp more. Whereas if you take a horizontal section at the scalp, that's gonna better cover your scalp right at the root because it's more of like a flat shape and it lays over top any exposed part of the scalp. So before, when I mentioned how I like to style my hair upright, but I like to still do techniques to get volume, and by that I mean brushing the hair up and away from the scalp. So I'm still achieving volume by keeping the hair lifted up away from the scalp like that. So this is how I still achieve volume at the root while being in the upright position. So the next question says, any new ideas for styling the crown when nothing seems to work? And I believe by that, this person is probably wondering about scalp covering, because I talk about that a lot at the crown and just how to style that area to better cover the scalp, because a lot of people struggle with exposed scalp at the crown area if they have low density hair. So I highly recommend using a handheld mirror like I've showed in the past. And I usually turn around and look at my hair in the mirror. And if I'm seeing this separation, this is where I will usually pick up the hair around it to then brush style to try and cover it up. So that way this area doesn't stay exposed and just separated like this. But what I wanted to mention that's different than maybe what I've talked about before is really try and pull hair from the front section, because if you have very thin hair, you probably don't have a lot of hair to work with to better cover the scalp, because we usually use our existing hair around that area to then cover up that thin section. But what I don't think I've mentioned before is a lot of times when I'm doing that, I'm pulling hair from like here. So if you'll see, my part really only goes from here to here, and then it kind of stops. And then all this hair is really focused back to help cover that, because I don't have a lot of hair back there to work with to be able to pull to that area. So what you can do is take a very dense bristle brush like this one and just kind of gently shake right here, which I've mentioned this before, but the difference is try and pull hair from the front more. So maybe take your brush up more towards the front and then pull it back and just kind of shake it a little bit. Or even from the side, you can even pull some hair from the side and just go in the opposite direction from where that cowlick is happening. Try and pull it in the opposite direction. So I'm pulling hair from the side of the hair over top that exposed scalp area. The next tip I don't think I've mentioned yet for better covering the scalp at the crown is to use root clips. I've been using root clips quite a bit recently to help with more root volume, but they can also help with better covering your scalp. Let me show you the difference. So if my scalp was more exposed back here like this, I could take this clip and then clamp it right over that part to where it pulls all of the surrounding hair together. So I'm basically forcing that hair together. And then if I let it dry like this, whether if I diffuse or air dry, it's going to help it set in place. So that way the hair is not falling back to its natural part as it's drying, because I'm sure that's happening with a lot of you where you style it, but then once your hair dries, it ends up separated again. So this is a way to kind of force it in this direction. You could even do this, you know, when you refresh and stuff. I recommend diffusing, like hover diffusing, to set this in place, because air drying probably not going to work as well if you have low density hair, but I've been placing root clips right here while I dry my hair. So I'm not quite ready to go in with my root clips yet, so I'm going to take that out so I can answer the next question. I'm also going to apply a little bit more of the gold hair makeup to my hands, so that way I can scrunch all over and get even more color payoff. Also, my hair is starting to dry a little bit, so I'm just going to spritz it. So the next question says, how do I get more volume at my roots? So one of the tips that I like to do is I always lift my root up before I scrunch my hair. So you'll see me kind of pinch the root with one hand and then go in and scrunch with the other hand. And this really helps give so much more root lift and even more root curl. And then I just scrunch. So I also do this when I'm micro plopping or when I'm scrunching with my hair towel. You'll see a lot of times I will do that, where I will lift it up and then I will scrunch right at the root. So you can see the color payoff that I'm going to have. I definitely got a lot right here because I kind of took my palm over it and I got a lot of color payoff right there. This might actually help to kind of cover my grays. So we'll see how well that works. The copper color that I used definitely covered my grays pretty good, or just kind of hid them. So the next tip that I have for increasing your root volume is to always use a diffuser that has long prongs like the Curlsmith one. This is the Curlsmith Diffusion Diffuser. It has a super large diffuser head, which is great for creating so much root lift. So I place those prongs right at the root, lift it and hold it when the air is on hot air and then low speed. Just hold it for a second and you will be amazed at the root lift. I've also been using these root clips a lot, which has helped tremendously. So like I mentioned before, I usually place one around the crown area and then also just all along my part. And this just helps pull all of the hair straight up, because we want the hair to dry in the upwards position, not downwards and not stuck to our head. So this is where I'll go in and just hover diffuse to let it kind of set in place like that. But I also recommend putting these in at the end of your diffusing routine. I don't diffuse the entire time with the clips on. I'll usually just do it at the end. And when you put the clips in at the end of your routine and then use those to help set the hair in place, it really helps once your hair is not soaking wet, to just keep the hair in that position once it's almost dried. But you don't want it to be too dry to where you can't like reshape the curls. Then take them out and use the diffuser prongs to finish drying your roots and then put them back in, and that's really what helps give me the most volume. So the clips have been sitting up in my hair for quite a while now, so I'm gonna go ahead and take them out. I went ahead and finished getting ready and everything, let them sit. Instant volume right away. This is one of my best tips for having more root volume. It really makes a difference. So at this point, I'm just going to shake out the roots, make sure none of them are stuck to my head, and I'm even going to scrunch out some of the gel cast. So I don't get a ton of like transfer on my hands from the hair makeup as long as my hands are dry. But when I do like twirl my hair, I tend to touch my hair a lot, I will notice some shimmer on my hands, but I don't see like actual like gold or yellow color, so it's not super noticeable, but I do see a little bit of shimmer on my hands when I do touch my hair. Now, if you have wet hands and you touch your hair, you're definitely gonna see some transfer on your hands because this color can be removed with just water. And of course it can be removed with shampoo when you go to shampoo, but I'm just scrunching out the gel cast. I noticed this time around with using the Shape Up Aqua Gel underneath of the hair makeup, my hair feels a lot better. It feels more moisturized. So I don't know if you can see the glitter on my fingers. So just a little bit there, but I never really noticed it on my shirt or on my pillowcase or anything, unless if of course like your hair was wet. So there was one more question that I was going to include in this video, and that asked, what is the solution to your hair looking very rough and frizzy on next day hair? And because this video is getting a little bit long, I'm actually going to include the answer to this question over on my Instagram stories. So make sure you're following me over on Instagram. I will also include my link down below if you want to check it out. So overall, I was really impressed with my results with using the gold hair makeup. My hair still looks natural. It still looks like my natural color, but when you look at it up closely or in really great light, like looking at it in my vanity mirror or in my ring light, it has this really nice gold shimmer to it. It just looks a lot warmer. So I will link you to the Curlsmith hair makeups down below, and don't forget about the promo that they have going on. So if you're still looking for more tips and tricks for your low density or thin curly hair, I recommend watching this video next that I will have linked here on the screen. It's all about how to get more volume and fullness, more root lift, and I'm actually featuring the new Curlsmith thickening lotion. So if you want to see my full review and how to use it there with tons of other styling tips for getting more volume, you can check that out, and I will talk to you over there. Bye everyone.